Welcome back to JRTV for the 2002 NASCAR Winston Cup Series season opener here in the Gatorade Duels at Daytona. Two pair of 15-lap races, 23 drivers in each, and we know 4 drivers will miss the Daytona 500 here for the 2002 season, and we'll see which 4 drivers those are at the end of the day here in Daytona. I'm Joe Rakowski, back in the booth. Along with me, it is Trey Bardo. Trey, these duels always exciting at Daytona, but especially exciting when we know that there are going to be some drivers that can miss out. There could be some big names that miss out, Trey. So how high do you think the intense level is going to be here at Daytona as we look to see, which 4 drivers miss the big show?
Well, I mean, what? So there's only certain drivers that can miss it, right? Because the other ones are locked in.
So in Daytona, it kind of works a little bit differently. So technically at the moment, only the front row is locked into the main event. That front row, obviously Jack Haas, who starts first in this duel, and then Keegan Thompson starts first in the second duel that will happen a little bit later on here today. The other ways to lock in, Trey, you have to finish inside the top 15 in this duel. It could technically be top 16 if Haas or Keegan do end up finishing inside the top 15. And then the final positions are filled by speed and by points. The top, or the 4 next highest on speed make it in, and then after we go through that, then it's the 6th highest in terms of 2001 owners points. So was that confusing at all for you, Trey?
No, I think I got it. So essentially, if you're not Jack Haas or Keegan Thompson, you're racing for your career.
Exactly. If you are not one of those drivers, you're racing. And if you're one of the drivers, Trey, that failed inspection after qualifying, you're going to be going pretty hard because some of those drivers, right, Logan Williams, Brandon Beal, they don't really have the owner's points to fall back on that are too good. If you're Chris Jericho, you failed inspection, but you're the champion. You're locked in because you are one of the top 6 in points.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yep, and then also, 4 by speed, so you have to think about, if you're the 29, if you're Sebastian Kukulon there, that number 29, you were one of the top 4 in speed, so you feel good about that. So, I mean, really at the end of the day, Trey, if you're good in speed, good in points, you don't really have to worry about it, but there are, a majority of the field, I'd say at least 30, 35 drivers in this field that are across the whole field that are going to be a little bit antsy as they go through this race, trying to figure out if they're going to be the ones to make it or not. But Trey, as we look in this duel, we have to give props to Jack Haas in that number 67 and Jasper Motorsports as a whole. They sat on pole in the Daytona 500 2 seasons ago, but that was the number 77 Sergio Guita in a single car team. This season, they expanded out to 2 cars, so maybe their resources running thin, but they still put one of their cars on pole position. It was the new team that formed that number 67, so what a great moment for that team and for that driver.
I mean, if it shows you anything, this team and both of the cars, I mean, clearly both of the cars have a lot of speed here at these type of raceways, so we'll have to see if, guys can trust the 67 and 77 now to, work with them, and hopefully they can make their way to the front or stay at the front in this case.
Yeah, we'll see if they try and find their way together and work with each other. Haas obviously starting on pole, and we have Ronald Kenton a little bit further back in the 77. We'll see if he can try and get up there, get to his teammate, and help him keep him out in front here in this 15-lap race for Gatorade Duel number 1. It's about time to go down tracks. I get the command to fire the engines up for the first Gatorade Duel race of the 2002 NASCAR Winston Cup Series season. The command has been given, and 23 cars filter off the starting grid here at Daytona to do battle in the first Gatorade Duel race. And try to talk about, some of the bigger teams up towards the front, like Keyshawn Richardson and Zachary DeLello sharing the second row here in this first duel. And Trey, this was one of the top teams last season. All 4 cars winning races at some point. All 4, in contention inside the top 10, top 5 in points. Are their expectations just as high or even higher this season as they look to maybe get one of those championships?
I mean, do you remember how they started last season?
Dominant.
You think they'll do it again?
They're hoping so. With how they qualified, Trey, they had all 4 of their cars inside the top 11 in terms of speed. That is flying for those drivers, and look and see if they can keep that success here throughout the rest of speed weeks. And Let's go a bit further back to Mathis Wells in that number 20 right start mid-pack here in this dual trade, but he saw his teammate Chris Jericho go out and dominate last season, win the championship in that final race, and now could it be Mathis's turn to try and do it? Because you have to imagine Joker's Racing could be just as strong this season as they were last season.
I mean, think about how much Wells helped Jericho, though. I mean, what race were these two not together helping each other?
It's a great point, right? Mathis Wells and Chris Jericho were always fast, no matter what track it went to. Both of them were fast. We'll see if they can both carry that speed here in the 2002 season. And a quick update right here. This is number 83, owned by Lathan Strickland, who's still driving for DEI, that number 15, but with Jordan Edwards behind the wheel, so kind of a little bit of an offset to DEI. Trey, do you think that this new single car team can be kind of competitive from the get-go?
Well, I mean, he essentially has 3 teammates in the field every time we go to a racetrack here. So you would like to think that they're going to have the speed, but we'll just have to wait and see.
We will have to wait and see, but the pace car is in, Trey. We're getting ready to go racing here at Daytona as they come down to take the green flag. That number 67 Haas will step on the gas, and there we go. We're green flag racing and Gatorade Duel number 1 here at Daytona. Well, Trey, already a pass for the lead on the first lap. Keyshawn Richardson, the 99, leads the first lap of the first Gatorade Duel. Number 11 coming up behind him, trying to push him, and that's Lathan Strickland, the 15, also there. He'll look out 3 wide into turn 1 for that second spot.
You know, Lathan was the only one to get a win for DEI last season, right? So do you think he's going to take that aggression level and kick it up a couple notches this season?
I think he is for sure, right? He knows that he has the speed to win these races, and maybe that team, they've made just a little bit of an extra step forward trying to get even faster cars, and maybe, who knows, all 3 could win this season, that we could have, them winning multiple races this season.
I mean, I don't know many people that dislike DEI and would hate to see that. But, I mean, only time's going to tell with that is he's about to lead a lap right here if the 97 doesn't get there, but I don't think he has any help. So, yeah, Lathan Strickland is going to be leading the second lap.
He is. Zachary DeLello moves up to second place. 3 wide behind them. That's Riley Sprotube to the inside. In the middle, that newly formed team, BAM Racing, that number 49. Colin T got the helm of that car with an alliance to Chip Ganassi Racing. And it looks like he's kind of backing up the middle at the moment. The inside gets going with the number 28 Sprotube, 28 Mathis Wells, and the 2 Fitzwater all on the inside moving forward. And Jose Mills, the 7, also moving forward on the inside lane.
Joe, doesn't it feel good to be back?
It does. It is great to be back.
Oh, I don't know about that, though.
Yeah, I don't know if those two have been good to be back, if DeLello chopped the nose off of Sprotube any further, but luckily that didn't happen, and they keep their cars going in the right direction, and they don't mess up their primary cars before they get to the 500.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think DeLello meant to do that. I don't think he expected the 28 to close the gap as quickly as he did with the help behind him. But, luckily this spatial awareness from the 97 and probably a little bit of a, off-throttle time for the 28 there, and it kept these guys all clean so far.
It did, and here comes Mathis Wells at 20 we mentioned. How aggressive will he be this season trying to get that championship like his teammate Chris Jericho did last season? Well, here he goes being aggressive on lap number 4 of this Gatorade Duel. For the lead on Lathan Strickland. Has help from Jose Mills, the number 7, and that Ultra Motorsports, not a new team, but currently in an alliance with Evernham Motorsports. That's why you kind of see the little bit of those spikes on the end of the number. That's the Evernham font, and that just shows how close this alliance is between that team. Also, Melling Racing with a pretty good alliance with Evernham this season. Watch for those 3 teams as they try and become, some Dodges to be reckoned with here this season.
That's a pretty big co-team?
It's 3 teams kind of all matched as one, so we'll see how Dodge, if they can maybe pick it up this season and move to the top, because last season, they were decent, but they didn't show the consistent pace like some of the other manufacturers, so they're looking to try and have that this season. Mills currently leads up the super stretch, but down to the inside, Sebastian Kukul on that 29, 3 wide for the lead, and Keyshawn Richardson, Jack Haas, all with him on the inside lane.
So what all happened with RCR during the offseason?
Well, so Evans kept his 31, but they swapped Atkins and Kukulon. Atkins moved to the 30. Kukulon's now in the 29. I believe the reasoning behind that was Goodwrench didn't like Atkins as their driver and said that the poor performances they had was almost hurting their image. And I guess when the image is you, Trey, you were Goodwrench's driver for a while, that's a lot to live up to. So for Atkins, it wasn't really fair, but we'll see if Kukulon can live up to the hype for that number 29 team.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of disappointing to hear that from Goodwrench. I mean, I've have nothing but good times with them, but to hear them not even give a rookie with a brand new car, or not a brand new car, but you got to get adjusted to this car is what I should say. That they didn't even really give him a chance is kind of sad to hear. But I mean, we'll have to see what Kukulon can do in this 29 Goodwrench.
I just hope that for everyone involved in that switch, it just works out for all of them, right? Maybe the whole team
Yeah.
can gain from it.
Yeah, if they don't fight each other.
If they don't fight each other, and hopefully we're past that. But two cars at the back currently losing the draft, and not what they're looking for. That number 57, a newer team, is currently losing the draft, and also behind that, I think the 66 of Nathan Ormond is losing the draft. So tough break for those two who don't really have the points nor the speed to fall back on. So at the moment, if it kind of finishes out like this, those could be two drivers that miss the show here for the 500.
We still got some time left here. Plus, these guys in the back of this pack here are making some pretty iffy moves. So we'll have to see how that goes. But Joe, look who's leading that top line right now.
Yeah, Jordan Edwards. We mentioned before the before this race, we mentioned how Lathan Strickland is team owner and a little bit of an alliance with DEI with this number 83 Fitz Bradshaw Racing team. But Edwards trying to drive that car. He's not a rookie to the series. We know, he filled in for Nathan Stipton, that number 97 in Season 1. Last season, he drove the number 9 for Evernham. Actually picked up a win at Riverside. He's looking to do great things in that 83. But here's another driver that got a kind of fluke win, and a surprising win last season. Roberto Crown Jr. in the 43, looking to get Petty back on top again. Going to the lead here at Daytona. DeLello up behind Kukulon, trying to give him a push, but now goes to the middle and all the way to the bottom. That number 11 is coming with the number 12, Mitchell Collins, also there.
Joe, you say that 43 was a fluke win. I still put it as one of the best, if not the best, pit strategy wins
Yep.
we've seen in at least the last 20 years.
I would say the best that we have ever seen in the Winston Cup Series. I mean,
It was a free win.
it was a free win. He didn't have to really do anything at the end of the race because he was so far ahead of the pack. He's basically a lap ahead of everyone. But now he's getting passed by the number 11 down to the end side. That's Benny Lynn moving over from Andy Peacher Racing. That number 11 team, Trey, in that Ford, they have a little bit of an alliance with Penske Racing. So maybe that's why Mitchell Collins is up behind that number 11, pushing him forward.
It seems like there's been a lot of alliances being formed over the offseason.
It does. There's as mentioned, those three Dodge teams. We then mentioned, this 11 and the 12, and the 49 BAM Racing team. They have an alliance with Chip Ganassi Racing. So, yeah, there's a lot of alliances this season.
So explain, to the people watching what an alliance basically means.
So basically, you have the bigger team, right? In this case, we'll use the 11, the 12, and the 2, for example. You have Penske, the bigger team. Then you have the smaller team like Brett Bodine Racing, that number 11 with Benny Lynn behind the wheel. They don't have the resources like, a Penske has. So Penske gives them some of that information, but also wants information in return for that. So basically, teams working together, trying to better all of the teams at the same time. And Trey, I have to think that maybe alliances started to form because of the what was almost like a failure between the joinment of three teams of Morgan McClure Motorsports and Marcus Auto Racing. And
those two are crowding each other a little bit.
That was Riley and Fitzwater. But there was a little bit of a failure with Joe Bessie Racing, Morgan McClure Motorsports, and Marcus Auto Racing. They formed into one mega team last season, but that didn't really work out well. In fact, they may have actually gotten worse over the course of the season. And not only that, but then now they're only down to two cars. One of the teams just completely left at the end of the season. So maybe that's where the alliance is coming in, in terms of, hey, forming one big team didn't work. Let's just keep each other separate and let each other do our own thing, but still share notes at the same time.
So it's kind of like a give and take type of system. One team, might be testing out a new type of part for their type of, manufacturer, and they like it, and they'll give it to the other teams they're allianced with. And in return, per se, the team that you gave the information to, they get a new part and they like it. They might just share it back with that original team.
Exactly that. But there's also the, you could go into that and say, one of the teams finds something out and they don't tell the other one. That's entirely possible in this case.
It's just breaking the alliance, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, that could happen, though, Trey. This is dog eat dog world. So they kind of have to do that at some points, though, wouldn't they?
Well, I mean, if it brings out the drama and we see some tempers, I won't be opposed.
That's true. That is true. But, Trey, we're nearing the, as you can see at the back of the field, they are scrambling around trying to get to the inside because we're nearing the final 3 laps of this race. Mitchell Collins has led in that number 12 since he's got the lead. Riley Spruitt, that number 28, up to second now, with Jack Haas, the pole sitter for the 500, looking to keep his car clean to move on and start on pole for the 500. Doesn't have to win this one, but Trey, I think he kind of wants to win this one. Up to third place with a nice push from Kukulon and that 97 of DeLello, trying to stay behind Riley Spruitt and push him up towards that number 12 of Mitchell Collins. 3 laps to go with Gatorade Duel number 1.
You know, I think the 67 definitely showed everyone that these guys have the speed to stay up front. Because, I mean, he pretty much fell back, and he's worked his way back up, right? So, I mean, if anything, he doesn't win this duel, he at least showed everyone that, like, hey, we have speed, so if you want to work with us, we know what we can get to the front if need be.
And moves being made, Trey, coming back to 2 to go. Riley Spurgeon with the move on Mitchell Collins, and Kukulon went low with him in the 29. So now they're on the inside. DeLello moving low, so that's 3 bigger teams. Robert Yates Racing, Richard Childress Racing, Roush Racing, all on the inside. Then you have the Ultra Motorsports team, Jose Mills. Luke Rennie trying to join his teammate at the front. He had a dismal qualifying and practice sessions. Now here he is, moving up inside the top 10 late with 2 laps to go. Here at Daytona, and now Kukulon for the lead in turn 1.
You know, honestly, if these guys can stay on the bottom here, I want to say the 88 or the 83 might be in the seat you want to be in right now, especially if this shuffle continues.
Well, last season we saw 2 smaller teams win the duels. Jay Randall for Bill Davis Racing and also Nathan Baird for, as mentioned, Morgan McClure Motorsports. We'll see if maybe a smaller team like the 7, the 83, the 36 can find victory lane here in this duel. We're coming around to the white flag this time by Zachary DeLello, the 97 in control. Here comes Jose Mills down to the inside. This is the last lap. White flag and Gatorade Duel number 1. DeLello with the lead. Mills in second. Luke Rennie going for third with Jordan Edwards right there. They're battling off into turn 1, looking 3 wide, but that might be for second. DeLello slams the door, shut down low.
That 97 is fast, Joe. I mean, he led from exit of 4 all the way into 1. I mean, normally someone gets past on the inside, but this 97 is able to stay out front so far.
He is. We'll see if anyone has anything for him down the back straightaway for the final time. Luke Rennie looks low for second place. DeLello trying to maintain the double wide behind him because he knows that they'll slow each other down, and that'll be it for them. But Luke trying to get clear in second place. Has a massive run onto the 97. Nowhere to go through the middle. 3 and 4. Can he get something off of turn number 4? Edwards looking out. Luke Rennie. That hurts the 88 up to the outside. It's all over in Daytona. And Zachary DeLello winning Gatorade Duel number 1.
Well, Joe, we kept it clean.
We kept it clean and trade. That might be a car to look out for on in the 500.
Have we had another car lead an entire lap, or pretty much a lap and a half during this duel?
Kukulon and Collins do it, but you know, I think DeLello's showing the pace at the end there. That is something to watch out for.
Yeah, that is something everyone will be taking notes about.
That is for sure, but we'll talk about the drivers that have locked in from this duel officially, because remember, it is the front row driver, Jack Haas, and then 15 other highest drivers that finished. So obviously, DeLello locks in. Luke Rennie, Jordan Edwards, big for that number 83 team. Evan Hunter is in the show. Jose Mills, a big story there in the number 7. He's in. Fitzwater is in. Kukulon is in. Nathan Baird, never really talked about him, that number 22. He's into the show. Riley Spurtube, Anderson Reed, really big there. He's in the show because he really needed to race his way in. That 14's racing in the 500. We see Mitchell Collins is in. We know Jack Haas was in. We know the 11 of Benny Lynn. The 40 is in. That's big there as well because he didn't have the times to fall back on. Logan Williams because he failed inspection. Mathis Wells and Keyshawn Richardson have locked in. So now the driver's tray, they're going down and, you know, looking through their speed, looking through their points, trying to figure out if they're going to make it. The 1 of Hernandez, the 43 of Roberto Crown Jr., Lathan Strickland, the 15, that 77 of Ronald Kennington. You look down the 49, the 57, the 66. So Trey, a lot of those drivers down there, they might be a little bit nervous, especially if you're the 49, 57, 66. You don't have much to fall back on in terms of points or speed.
I mean, really now it comes down to the next duel, doesn't it?
It does, because depending on who races in there, it's then going to depend on speed and points. So maybe you're hoping all the fast guys, you know, qualify in, and then all the slow guys have to, you know, find a way there, or all the people that are bad on points. But definitely, it's all going to depend on Gatorade Duel number 2. That's why we can't announce who's missed the show yet, because we don't know. It's all coming down to the second Gatorade Duel. We'll go take a quick break. We'll come back for the second Gatorade Duel race of the day here at Daytona. We are back here on JRTV for Gatorade Duel number 2 here at Daytona after what was an intense Duel number 1 here today for these drivers. They're back for 15 more laps, but the 23 other drivers in this 46-car field, and Trey is back joining me in the booth. So Trey, after what these drivers saw in Gatorade Duel number 1 and maybe knowing for some of these drivers where they have to be in terms of, finishing, or do they have the points or the speed to make it in terms of other drivers, how do you expect for this duel to go? Will it be just as calm as the first one, or will we see a little bit more carnage in this one?
I hope it stays clean, Joe, because if you wreck your car in a duel, it just kind of seems unnecessary.
It does seem unnecessary, but you might get some drivers in desperate situations where they're going, I need this one spot at the end of the race to transfer through into the 500, otherwise I'm out, and maybe they'll start pushing the issue and cause a crash. But hopefully that does not happen here today in this duel, and we can have 2 clean 15-lap races here at Daytona. But at the front of the field, Keegan Thompson, that number 5, was on pole for this race last season, currently set to start outside pole here on Sunday if everything goes right in that number 5. So we'll see if Keegan can keep his car clean and stay on the front row for the Daytona 500 start. Beside him in this duel, that number 44 is Diego Yepez, has driven the 4 the past 2 seasons in the Winston Cup Series, but got let go by his team and Trey. It was a little interesting how it all played out, he relinquished team ownership because he didn't feel like he wanted to be in that role anyway, so he gave it to one of the other drivers that he formed the team with. Then that driver ended up kicking him out and then relinquishing ownership of that team anyway and moving to a different team. So Trey, I think Yepez not the happiest with his old team, Morgan McClure Motorsports, and it's great to see that because he's in the duel with the 2 Morgan McClure Motorsports cars.
What? I didn't hear about this during the offseason. Where was I at?
I think you were on vacation somewhere.
Probably. I don't remember very much, but that's wow, I'm gonna have to ask you about that more later. But anyways, yeah, that sounds like a whole mess.
It was a whole mess, and I'm sure Diego not the happiest, but he's with Petty Enterprises now. We know that team won last season with Roberto Crown Jr., and maybe getting Yepez is that step up they need to be just that little bit better to start contending for wins based off of speed and not based off pit strategy. But something else I want to talk about, Trey, all 4 of the Hendrick cars in this duel here today, this second duel. And yes, I said all 4 Hendrick cars because in the offseason they formed a 4th team. They brought Lowe's over as a sponsor from RCR to that number 48 car with Jason Albert behind the wheel in that number 48. So Trey, for Hendrick, right, the past 2 seasons they've been leading in points going into the final race, but lost it both times because of wrecks at Atlanta. Now they've added a 4th car. Will they stay just as dominant as they have been, or will adding a 4th car maybe draw resources a little bit thin and potentially drop them down a little bit, or will that 4th car addition make them even better than they have been the past 2 seasons?
You would have to think, it's Hendrick. They're not going to make a move that could possibly put them, at any other lower pace than they already are, right? So I would have to say adding that 4th car isn't really going to affect them too much.
All right, so if the 4th car isn't going to affect them, I want to go to morale side. How is the morale of the team after the past 2 seasons, how they've ended? Do you think that could possibly hurt them throughout this season?
Yes.
Yeah.
Joe, they battled for the championship the last 2 seasons.
Yep.
And they lost both?
And they lost both. By the way, they were leading going into the final race in both times.
So they lost them by very minimal amounts. And like you said, leading with 2 different drivers.
Yep.
So is it the same situation this season with a different driver, or do they finally overcome it?
Well, if it's going to be a different driver, Zidell or Albert have to be shaken a little bit and hoping that it doesn't happen to them because, my goodness, this team cannot go through much more heartbreak. But some positive that they have is that the last time we were here for the Daytona 500, Brett Sierra claimed victory in that number 25. So hopefully he can do the same here today. And speaking of Brett Sierra, the driver who bested him for the championship last season, Chris Jericho, also in this duel. He was set to actually be in the first duel, but failed inspection after qualifying, and Trey, he's all the way back, starting in 22nd. The good thing for him, though, he knows he's locked in because he's one of the highest 6 in points.
That's something you got to look at positive, right?
Yeah, it's a positive but also negative at the same time because, my gosh, he had the third fastest time, but it got disallowed. Also back there with him with the time that got disallowed, Brandon Beal making the move over to Chip Ganassi Racing. Both of those cars failed post-qualifying inspection. Brandon Beal back in 23rd to start this second duel at Daytona, but is getting time to get the command to fire the engines for the second duel race of the day. 15 laps are about to get underway. Let's go down trackside for the most famous words in motorsports.
Start your engines!
There it is, Trey. The command has been given. 23 cars roll off the starting grid here at Daytona. Let's talk about a few drivers a little bit further back in the pack. And let's go to this man, that number 19, Trey. It's Nolan Lawrence, was driving for Haas Carter Motorsports last season, that number 26. But Evernham picked him up over the offseason. Well, actually, by the end of last season, they picked him up already. And then he went out and won Atlanta. So for Evernham, kind of a dream come true, right? He wins the last race before coming over here, so he has momentum on his side. Can he bring higher things for this Evernham team this season?
You would definitely think so. The momentum's got to carry, but I mean, you're going to Daytona, Joe. Anything could happen.
Yes, anything can happen, and we know that from past experience here at Daytona that anything can and will happen here at this racetrack. And also, here's Tim Gary, that number 10, had a very solid season for his first full-time season last year in this number 10 for MB2 Motorsports. Got a win at Texas World and, had some good runs after that. So, Trey, can we see another win from Tim Gary this season, or maybe even multiple wins this season from Tim Gary?
I honestly think both him and his teammate, and what that would be the owner of the team, I do think they get more than one, more than a couple of wins this season. They both get a couple each.
All right, well, we'll see if MB2 can live up to that hype, as obviously they had a good season last season, looking to build on that momentum. And here's Trey, Nathan Stilton back in the series after, kind of getting kicked out in the middle of the 2000 season, that number 97. But now he's back with that smaller Morgan McClure Motorsports team. His teammate right to his inside, and team owner Jimmy Stammer Jr. Can Stilton make, impressions in this number 71 car this season?
I think he can, and I think he's going to be very good with how excited he is to return to this.
All right, well, the pace car is in, and the second 15-lap race about to get underway here at Daytona. The number 5 of Keegan Thompson on the pole position for Gatorade Duel number 2, and the green flag is waving. And look at that number 30 Atkins stepping on the gas and getting right behind the 5 as they race out of the tri-oval.
It's you think he's got something to prove?
Well, look, he's already moving up for the lead into turn 1. Justin Atkins saying, if Goodwrench didn't want me, AOL is definitely going to want me behind the wheel of this number 30 car.
He might have a different mentality going through this, huh?
I think so. You know how you were saying hopefully they keep it clean? This might be the driver that is going to be very aggressive. It might not be the ones that keep it clean because he has something to prove here this season.
Hey, as long as the wreck happens behind you, it don't matter, does it?
I guess that's also true. As Stout getting a push from teammate Burnett, but he gets put 3 wide by the number 24 of Justin Zeidel. The number 19 of Nolan Lawrence coming up on the inside, and here come the Wood brothers, number 21 also up on the inside. So are 3 wide, and Keegan Thompson start on pole in this race, Trey, slipping back outside the top 5 on lap 1.
He might be just about top. He might be in 10th by the time I get back to the start-finish line.
Yeah, it was not a good first lap for Keegan Thompson. But also remember, he doesn't have to really finish well because he's already on the front row. So really, this is just another practice session for Keegan Thompson, that number 5.
No better practice than, in a pack, pretty much what you're going to be simulating here during the Daytona 500 itself. So, I mean, he might be trying to get to the back to see if he can work his way back up front to see what his car is capable of.
I was just about to ask that, Trey. Is it possible that Keegan is doing this on purpose, going back into the middle of this to just feel what his car is going to do? Because obviously a lot of the practicing that they've done here so far at Daytona has been either single car runs for qualifying, or if they've gotten into draft, it's just been little, trains. It's not been anything like this where it's 2 or 3 wide and you're slicing and dicing. So it's possible that Keegan is just doing this to fill his car out.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, you and me both saw it during the practice here, just, a day or two ago, that the biggest pack we had was maybe, 4 cars, 5 cars at most?
Yeah, 4 or 5, maybe 6 cars at some point. But, yeah, it was mostly just, teamwork battle or manufacturer, kind of working together. But otherwise, there wasn't really, this kind of varieties. At the moment, Trey, at the front of the field, cars spreading out. Look at this. RCR is going to the front with Conrad Evans. New Singular Wireless sponsorship, that number 31. But now Burnett leaves him to go 3 wide to the inside.
He helped them push to the inside of the 24, then immediately left them.
And this is an interesting step. We have the field gotten really spread out. I think because of how fast Atkins has been from the get-go, kind of spreading the field out and spreading it thin. At the moment, the pack kind of, not as packed together, but kind of, spread out and wide throughout the field.
Yeah, I feel like the 30's been able to keep like car length or car and a half between him and whoever's in second place so far. I mean, this 30 looks fast.
It does.
He's at 2 right now.
Roger Ray, that 55, 3 wide to the bottom. Laura Chung moving over from Bill Davis Racing to Evernham. Another great pickup for that, red Dodge team as Chung up to 5th place at number 9. Here comes Ray looking low on Chung's teammate Nolan Lawrence. Behind them, Jamie Stammer Jr. into the middle of 3 wide. Tim Gary looking low in the 10. Stammer's going to clear that down low. Sierra's middle of 3. Behind it's Nathan Stapleton. Then comes at number 45, rookie to the series, Hunter Reed. Keegan Thompson moving back through the field along with Yepez. Those two started on the front row. Here they're trying to get back up through the field now as we're 4 laps into the show.
These guys are, they're honestly calmer than I thought they'd be.
Yeah, it's I also think a part of that is because of how spread out the pack had gotten at the beginning. They're now starting to get packed back together, and maybe that's where you start to see some of the moves be made. Here comes Smet Oskin, not a rookie, but new to Haas Carter Motorsports. Chris Jericho, the champion, right behind him. Baby Ruiz with that, that alliance with Evernham Motorsports, has one of their paint schemes basically on the car for the Daytona 500. And losing the draft currently, Noah Clifton, that 32, and also that number 21 of Jack Carter for the Wood brothers.
Yeah, that's it's not what you want to happen, but I mean, occasionally at a track like this, if you get to the back there and you lose, you have to get off throttle for 1 second, if worse 2. I mean, you could lose a draft pretty easily.
And that's exactly what's happening currently with that number 21. Looks like Clifton was able to kind of get a sniff of it and get back into it. But at the moment, Trey, that number 30 has led every lap so far. Justin Atkins dominating Gatorade Duel number 1. Here comes Keegan Thompson trying to change that. Remember, he started on pole, got passed by Atkins into turn 1, lap 1. Now he's trying to get these spots back and get back up to the front. Moving low on Stanworth for a second. His teammate coming with him, Jason Albert, and then a number 48 car.
So Lowe's left Evans. It went to the 48.
Yep.
Huh.
Do you think it was an attitude problem?
It might have been the whole RCR problem.
It might have been, but we'll see if Lowe's has a little bit more success with Hendrick Motorsports in that number 40 with Jason Albert at the helm of that car. And right behind him, a driver who really, this is a make or break season. Even though he has a very long contract with Chip Ganassi Racing, Brandon Beal needs to show this season he can do it, right? The past 2 seasons with Bill Elliott Racing and PPI Motorsports, not the best of teams, not the best of equipment. Now he's with a team that many are expecting to be a top 10 team, top 15, competing for that. As you can see, Albert had to block Beal down to the bottom. He had to run going. But, Trey, this is a make-or-break season for Brandon Beal because he now has the equipment that can perform. He needs to show that he can perform like the equipment can.
You said he signed a long deal contract. What did he sign?
5 years.
5 years?
Yes.
I want that type of contract if I ever went racing. What?
I know. I mean, and it kind of shocked a lot of, analysts, media people in the garage because, no offense to Brandon Beal, but he hasn't been behind one of these really good cars yet, so we don't actually know how good he is.
Yeah, again, no offense to Beal. I mean, he was driving good in what he was given, but I mean, with a top tier team like you said, Ganassi, automatically 5 years. I mean, where do I sign?
Well, we'll see if he can maybe shut the naysayers up and maybe perform good enough. He actually just got passed by his old team, that number 32 Clifton. But here we go, Trey. It's Atkins and Evans 1-2. And how about this? The one driver who wants to pass Justin Atkins on the racetrack is Conrad Evans, his teammate.
Well, you know what? I thought they were going to work together because they were both fast, but I guess not.
Yep, no, and it's going to be the first lap. It looks like that Atkins has not led today. Evans wants to pull up in front, but maybe give him the draft and get him back clear. But at the moment, I think it's a little bit too late for that, Conrad.
Well, I mean, if anything, we at least see what the 30 is capable of when he gets out front. And it seemed like the only thing that could pass him was another RCR car.
Yeah, was basically his own car. That
yeah.
could pass him.
So, I mean, that's good. And we'll have to see what Evans can do out front here. If, maybe he has the same speed as his teammate did or, not quite as much. And we have to see what the 30 can do in traffic.
And here we are with the 32 Noah Clifton PPI Motorsports. That's right behind him, Brandon Beal, the 41. They were teammates last season. this season, Noah Clifton, down to one car, just a single PPI Motorsports car, and Brandon Beal over Chip Ganassi Racing. We'll see if they want to work together, maybe get by this 31 of Conrad Evans, or it looks like maybe Brandon Beal wants to leave his prior teammate out to the outside, but Clifton getting a nice draft from Conrad Evans, trying to get back clear in second place, and will do just that down to the inside. Nolan Lawrence 3 wide for fourth place, Tim Gary down to the bottom lane with him. The number 9 is also there, Laura Chung, Matthew Burnett, Roger Ray, Diego Yepez, all trying to move up at just the right time. 5 laps to go in the second duel. Here goes Beal for second place on Noah Clifton.
He's there, I think. I couldn't tell there for a second. I thought, maybe the third duel was going to try to clear himself here, but, I mean, these guys are starting to pick it up a little bit.
They're now 3 wide for a majority of the pack behind the front 4. Burnett down to the inside, gets by Chung and Tim Gary. Also behind him is the 55 of Roger Ray, the 44 of Diego Yepez, Jason Albert in the 48. Eli Bright, we haven't mentioned the 8 car in that Bud Light scheme. Here he comes on the inside trying to make his name known at just the right time. 4 laps to go at the line.
That's not a permanent scheme for him, is it?
That's just for the 500 currently.
All right, I don't know how to feel about it.
It's
every time I see it, I think of what's that cookie?
Oreo?
Yeah, that's the one.
It kind of does resemble an Oreo scheme, but here we go, Trey, trying to shut the naysayers up. It's Brandon Beal going for the lead on Conrad Evans into turn 1.
He's going to get help from one of the big guys here. We talked about them in the first duel, Joe, the team of Roush. And, you know what? The 17's finally making his name, known.
Yeah, Matthew Burnett trying to get up to the front at the end of this race. Hill looking low on Brandon Beal as they race up the super stretch. He moves low. Yepez with him. Jason Albert in the 48 also there. Eli Bright in the 8 is there as well as they storm off into turns 3 and 4. 3 laps to go at the line behind Eli. Jamie Stimmer Jr., Keegan Thompson, Chris Jericho. Can one of those drivers find victory lane here at Daytona in the second duel? They might have to try and get by Diego Yepez, 44 to the inside Burnett, and he looks to lead with 3 to go, but Burnett able to do it in the 17.
This whole race has changed drastically ever since the 30 lost that lead.
Yeah, and he has not been able to make it back up. Atkins currently stuck at the back of the pack in that number 30 car. See Laura Chung right there trying to get low because she knows the inside is the place to be here at Daytona. Down the backstretch, here comes Eli Bright looking low on Jason Albert in the 48. Jamie Stimmer Jr. trying to stay with them in that number 4 car. Eli gets the nose to the inside of the 48, and it's going to be the number 8 Bud Light Chevrolet to the lead in turns 3 and 4, coming back to 2 laps to go.
Starting to get a little picked up here, and we're going to have another pass for the lead. Possibly Eli's going to go up high. He might be able to get back down low for the tri-oval here.
Oh!
He does not.
He almost did. 2 laps to go just at the last second. Stanworth got to the inside. He'll go for the lead into turn 1. Keegan Thompson, Chris Jericho right behind him. Remember, Thompson, runner-up in the championship in 2000. In 2001, Chris Jericho won the championship. That's some big names behind Stanworth as they race off 2, coming back to the white flag.
Almost makes you wonder if the spotter for Eli told him he wasn't clear yet. It's such a weird angle with that tri-oval is where the spotters are at. I mean, I know it's right in front of them, but, I mean, these guys are going so fast here. But, Joe, look who's coming on the inside.
Chris Jericho 3 wide for second place. Right behind him, it's Samet Oskin in the 26. Hunter Reed in his first start in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series season, that number 45. He's down to the inside, but Jericho, failed inspection, we have not uttered the 18's name or number once today. And now at the white flag tray, we're uttering again. He's going to the lead at the end of the tri-oval.
Does the 18 have the same speed he did all last season, or is it a different story this time around, Joe? Those going to be time to tell, but he's got a pretty big gap there on going onto the backstretch, Joe. It might not be good.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they can get, if they can get organized behind, they can definitely have a run onto him. Oskin moves up, Reed moves low, Stout is low, Zidell is moving low, but no one currently is catching Chris Jericho. Down the backstretch, he's pulled away even more trays to get side by side for second place.
18's got speed, Joe. He pretty much pulled a 3-car gap on by himself.
Well, as they come off turn number 4, picking up where he left off last season, Chris Jericho failed inspection, but wins his Gatorade Duel here at Daytona.
No, we're 2 for 2.
2 for 2 on clean races. That did not happen much last season.
I hope this is a normal thing for this season.
I hope this is a welcome change to the 2002 season. But Trey, Chris Jericho, could it be another championship-like season for this 18 team?
I mean, if he brings the speed we just saw, I mean, he literally pulled almost a 5-car length lead by himself there.
Yeah.
It definitely could be.
Well, Jericho, winner of the second Gatorade Duel winner, he'll start inside the top 5 for the Daytona 500. And who's joining him in that 500 field? Remember, pole sitter or front row starter Keegan Thompson, and then the 15 other top finishers. Well, top seed Jericho, Hunter Reed is into the 500. What a great start for that rookie in his Winston Cup Series career. Jordan Stout is in, Justin Zeidel, Noah Clifton, Samet Oskin, there's Keegan. Then we have Tim Gary, number 44 of Yepez, 25 of Brett Sierra, Laura Chung, Jamie Stammer Jr., Roger Ray, Baby Ruiz, Eli Bright, and the number 71 of Nathan Stapleton has made it. That's big for him because that 71 team did not have great points and not great speed as well, but the drivers trade that are looking through to their speed or their points, the number 30 of Justin Atkins, 48 Jason Albert, Conrad Evans in the 31, Brandon Beal in the 41, Matthew Burnett, Nolan Lawrence, and Jack Carter in the 21.
Those are some big names.
Those are, two RCR cars, a Hendrick car, Chip Ganassi, Roush, Evernham, Wood Brothers, all those cars that are in that position right now, Trey. They are they're looking over their shoulder, wondering if they're going to be the ones eliminated or not.
They're trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah, they are. But we'll take a quick break here on JRTV, and we'll come back and tell you the 4 drivers that will unfortunately not make the Daytona 500, but which of the drivers below will make it into the 500. Welcome back to JRTV as we're here at the Daytona International Speedway, ready to determine the 4 drivers that will unfortunately not race in this 2002 Daytona 500 and which drivers got through on speed and via the 2001 owner's points for that car. So the first 4 spots after this get filled by speed. And unfortunately for a lot of drivers that didn't have the points, a lot of drivers that had a lot of speed ended up, kind of missing. So, Trey, all 4 of these drivers that made it by speed had qualified inside the top 12. You have the 30 of Atkins, who qualified in 6th. You have the 17 of Matthew Burnett, who qualified in 10th. The 15 of Lathan Strickland in 11th. And the 31 of Conrad Evans, who qualified 12th. Trade those 4 make it in on speed. So we know that those are 4 fast cars that to fall back on their speed. They did it. Unfortunately, it kind of hurt some drivers who were looking to try and get through on speed because they didn't have the points. And then 6 make it through by 2001 points. When you look, Anthony Hernandez, 19th in points in 2001, he makes it. Nathan Orman definitely going to be loving the performance Mitch Corbett did last season because he's in 21st in points. 24th in points for Brandon Beal. He's loving what Caden Lynn in the 01 did last season. He's into the 500. Then we go to 30th in points. Ronald Kennington, he's into the show. The 21 Jack Carter, Jacob Boyd, drove that car to 33rd in points last season, just good enough to make it into the show. And the final driver in on points, 38th in points last season. It was Roberto Crown Jr. in that 43 to make it in. So Trey, the 4 drivers that will not race in the 2002 Daytona 500, Nolan Lawrence for Evernham Motorsports in that 19, 1 spot shy in terms of points. He was 39th in points, 18th in qualifying. That's how he missed. The 49 of Colin Teague also missed the show. No points to fall back on from last season. He was 13th in terms of speed, and he misses because so many drivers that were fast in terms of qualifying did not make it in as well. The 57 also misses. And then the big one right here, 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports. Jason Albert will miss the show for the Daytona 500. No points to fall back on last season, and only 24th fastest in the qualifying session. So Trey, some really, really big teams and names missing. Nolan Lawrence for Evernham and Jason Albert for Hendrick, the 2 big ones there.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say. I mean, the 48, the guys who were out because of no points to fall back on. I mean, that was kind of a gimme almost. Once they saw they didn't make it in on any of the other ones, just because they're pretty much going to go through what Kukulon went through last season.
Yep, exactly. Kukulon did miss a race or 2 early on last season because that 30 car didn't have the owner's points from the previous season, even though he was doing well in points in terms of the current season. From races 2 to 5, it's all based on 2000, or I guess in this case 2001 owner points. So for the 48, that could be big for the 19 as well. So these, kind of bigger teams that are back there outside of the top 35 points, they have to be looking out. But also, Trey, very unfortunate for the 49 of Colin Teague, who, after the first duel ended and we looked at, the speed and the points of everyone in there, I said, oh, Colin Teague should be fine. He was 13th fastest in qualifying. There's no way that, a bunch of other people beat him and knock him out of the top 4 in terms of speed. But Trey, that's exactly what happened. The 13th fastest car in qualifying is going to miss the show because so many fast cars ended up not racing their way in.
We love situations like this, don't we?
It just shows how competitive the Winston Cup Series is.
Yeah, which is a good thing for some. The fans like to see competitiveness, but on the other side, the ones that don't make it, they don't like it as much.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate part. And obviously, as mentioned, Jacob Miller, he didn't really have much going for him. That 57, no owner's points from last season, that number 57, and he was 41st in terms of speed in qualifying, never showed any pace in terms of the practices. So that 57 team, they could be struggling to make races throughout this season. We'll just have to see if they can try to improve on their car, Trey.
Yeah, I mean, they got plenty of time to do it, and I would be surprised if they didn't do it.
Yep. So once again, the 4 unfortunate drivers that will miss the 2002 Daytona 500: Nolan Lawrence in the number 19 Dodge for Evernham Motorsports, Colin Teague in the number 49 for BAM Racing, number 57 Jacob Miller for CLR Racing, and then the biggest story, Jason Albert, the rookie for Hendrick Motorsports. That number 48 will not make the Daytona 500 this season, but we still have 42 other drivers ready to do battle at Daytona for the Daytona 500. We'll see you guys on JRTV then for the first race of the 2002 NASCAR Winston Cup Series season.